unlike any other 911, it hasn't been tweaked to do really well on standardized tests like 0 to 60 or fuel economy. Doing well on a standardized test is meaningless. It's like that idiot friend of yours who's as dumb as a box of rocks, but managed to get an A in chemistry by memorizing enough useless facts. You want to kill him. And yet, big companies love standardized tests. Why? The easiest way for middle management paper pushers at Porsche who know nothing about cars to prove their worth is by telling engineers to make the cars go faster from 0 to 100 and boasting about reduced consumption that none of us really care about. Oh, their heads must have exploded when the world lost its collective mind over the Cayman GT4. It would have been faster and more efficient if it had a dual clutch automatic, and yet it's sold out completely with a stick shift. Oh dear, looks like we've come to a fork in the road. Oh, which way do we go? If we go that way, it's all about lap times in 0 to 60. If we go that way, it's about the experience. What do we do? Okay, so we're in the car, the engine is not running, but I'm gonna turn the key on. It'll do its dings. But I want you to hear something. As I move the gas pedal up and down, you actually hear the servo motor moving the throttle in the engine behind us. That's how little sound deadening this car has. When I start it, well, listen. Okay, you're hearing a lot of stuff. You hear those ticks? That's actually the injectors and the injector pump rattling. And when I blip the throttle, you're actually going to hear the when the throttle cracks open. Insane. Okay, this car also has the optional lightened flywheel, which isn't heavy enough to damp the crankshaft's vibrations at idle. So when I let my foot off the clutch, transmission's going to spin up, but you're going to hear all the gear lash. Ready? Insane. Insane. I've never heard a modern car make all these great noises. That one, not exactly pleasant, but it's honest. That's why I love this car. I have a runway, and now I'm going to use it. 4,000 RPM, clutch dump, here we go.
Randy, the 959 is an awesome car, and it's a hugely important car for the 80s. You were racing cars at that time. You were driving cars a lot. What does this car mean versus what you were driving?
They're antiques. It was a whole other world. The cars I was driving had no ABS. My VW Golf Volkswagen Cup car, 85 horsepower.
Yep.
It had CIS fuel injection, no feedback, well, it had an oxygen sensor, but it was primitive.
It's crazy how advanced this car was for its time. I mean, never mind the four-wheel drive system, which was revolutionary. I mean, this thing had tire pressure monitoring, it had ABS, it had sequential turbos. One would spool up before the other. I mean, titanium connecting rods in 85.
Wow.
I mean, that's space-grade stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like it was a kind of a space program level development for a four-wheeled automobile.
And 450 horsepower, that was more than double the standard 911 thanks to those turbos.
That's really kind of mind-bending, and today I have to just consciously take myself back to the world that it was then.
Yeah.
Because now we're used to it, right? Today's cars have all got that kind of technology, but not in the 1980, what are we talking, 86?
85 to 87 area.
Wow.
Yeah.
Back then, 200 horsepower was a lot of horsepower.
And what was really interesting is this wasn't a race car. Like the F40 was a race car. this was a GT car that was built to essentially do everything. That's why it had a snow and gravel mode. That's why you have a granny gear, is to drive through mud. This was a car that was intended to do everything at once.
I think this car is predicting the future. The combination of the electric and gas and the efficiency of making big power and the efficiency of regenerating.
Yes.
Energy only changes form, and what this car can do is change that energy back into a usable form, send it right back to the wheels again.
This car shows that hybrids have a lot of benefit with fuel economy, but they can also be really cool power adders. They can be this rechargeable, nitrous-like feeling that gives you this really interesting control in a lot of different ways over the axles too.
Well, there's a gauge right on the right side of your dash that says boost. But it's not talking about turbos. This car doesn't have turbos. That's like electric boost.
That's great. It's like video games, how each lap you get more boost. When you brake hard, when you lift off the throttle, the boost recharges like it does in a video game. It's crazy how cars are actually replicating that.
Does it?
Yeah.
I don't play video games.
Oh, well, you drive cars.
Turning 8,000 RPM in the brand new Porsche GT3 RS. This car is another step, evolutionary, in the development of the latest 911 as a track car. You hear the incredible noises. It's a 4-liter now with a longer stroke, and it's making more power than ever. It's up to 500 horse, a nice round number, isn't it? But you know what, John, it only revs to 8,800. Doesn't go to 9,000 anymore because of that extra stroke. We know the GT3 is a great car, one of my favorites. The GT3 RS shows up and everything's better. It's more of a race car. The closest I think you can come to a real live race car for the street. This is a fantastic track. Up and down and right and left. Negative G's, positive G's. Great place to try out a 911 GT3 RS. The RS is a GT3 on steroids. It's a GT3 that's been to the gym and gotten even stronger. All the way from end to end. It's like Porsche improved every piece of it. It's the motorsport department got their hands on a 911 and just played mad scientist from the very front, adding to the downforce in the front with a bigger splitter, vents in the top of the fenders that evacuate air from the wheel wells, adding to the downforce in the front. A lot at a high rate of speed. It's got a lot of corners, and the corners is what the GT3 RS is about. In my opinion, it's a big success. It's firmer, but still comfortable on the street for somebody that likes a sports car, like me. Not at all harsh, surprising. The GT3 RS gets wider. It seems to me that ever since the first time I saw a Porsche 911, they've been getting wider and wider and wider. The GT3 RS continues that tradition. The rear track is similar to the turbo model, and you might recognize these vents from a turbo, but instead of feeding intercoolers, they feed the air intake. And they're getting enough air through these vents that's directed by the airflow over the fender, under the mirror, and right into this wheel arch. It causes a ram air effect that actually gains the car 10 horsepower over its normal rating of 500 at a high rate of speed. I think that's pretty cool.
I've been waiting for so long to drive the 911 GT3, and in that time, my anticipation has been building. My expectations have been getting bigger and bigger. And now that I'm finally behind the wheel of one, I can happily report that the GT3 has met everything, and it is everything I could want it to be. Listen to that. Now that wasn't even redline. The 911 GT3 is without a doubt an amazing driving car. And that's what we expect from the GT3 name. You expect extreme amounts of performance, but also extreme satisfaction from behind the wheel, and the car delivers that. Now we know we have this super high revving, monstrous flat six that makes a terrific sound in the last 500 RPM of its power band. But what I'm also finding is that it's a pretty broad power band too. Pick up the throttle at 5,000 RPM and it accelerates really nicely in the corners. And that's what I love about naturally aspirated engines, is the linearity through and to redline. It feels just terrific. The shifts happen so fast, in fact, that when you see the tack move, you almost can't believe it. You're anticipating a longer shift. But it's not just the speed, it's the control. And that really is what the GT3 is all about. It's the supreme body control of the car. The GT3 makes the experience of driving fun and rewarding. It sounds tremendous and feels terrific while revving the engine up to 9,000 RPM over and over again. The acceleration and response are simply addicting. The chassis provides its driver an immediate sense of confidence, but that confidence doesn't feel simplified or dumbed down. The car feels constantly encouraging. Its numerous electronic aids and adaptive devices make the GT3 nice to drive normally, but they hide in the background when you want to have fun. The completely adjustable suspension and adjustable wing means you can tailor the driving experience to match the track or your tastes, or both. These things make you want to explain to people that the GT3 isn't a numbers car, that it's all about the experience. But then you take a look at the test sheet and see that it puts down really good numbers too. Look at what the chassis can accomplish with just 475 horsepower. Simply, the GT3 is one of the absolute best driver's cars.